Hello, and welcome to Understanding Customer Relationships, Introduction to Week 1. In our first week, we're going to be looking at the differences between the customer and the user, and also looking at a range of stakeholders inside an organisation. We'll also recognise the importance of collecting information to gain a better understanding of customer needs. Now, I want you to think about the range of stakeholders inside an organisation. It can be very complex. If we look at an organisation, they can be dealing with a number of stakeholders, some with more power and influence than others. A stakeholder is anyone who has power or interest in your organisation. And as we can see here by the stakeholder map, you can have a range of stakeholders, from competitors, regulatory bodies, media, government organisation, your own management and staff, customers and suppliers. Some organisations will have a huge range of stakeholders and others will be less so. Part of your task will be actually understanding the range of stakeholders that you have and how you might go about communicating with them for the best. One of our first tasks is to understand the difference between a customer and a user. Now, the Chartered Institute of Marketing has definitions for both, and they talk about a customer being a person or a company who purchases goods or services. They are the customer. Now, the customer purchases them, they pay for them, they order them, but they might not necessarily use them. And we find that this is very common in organisations where there's a purchaser or a head of department who actually decides to buy the goods, but they don't use them themselves. A consumer or a user is actually an individual who uses the product and the service. And as you can see by the definition, a consumer might actually be the purchaser as well. So it might be your parents or yourself, and you actually buy a sofa or a television and you use that yourself. So a consumer might be a user as well. Okay, but a customer might be somebody who just buys a good or a service and doesn't use it themselves. Now, in marketing, a lot of our job is market research and actually understanding a fair bit about our customers and our users. Some of the information that we'd like to know about our stakeholders is what actually do our stakeholders require? What are their needs and wants? We also want to have an understanding of how best we can serve them. What is the type of customer service that they're actually looking for? Is it longer hours? Is it warranty? Is it the product itself? What can we actually do to serve the stakeholder better? Why else is information important? Well, we need to scan the environment. We need to have an understanding of what our competitors are doing, the service offering that they actually offer, the prices that they sell goods and services for, what their value proposition is, and what their strategic objectives might be moving forward. And another part of why we need information is to understand the external environment. What's going on politically, economically, socioculturally, and technologically, because all of these things impact our business and also our stakeholders considerably. Well, how do we go about getting this information? We call this market research in marketing terms, and there's a wide variety of sources. We can obviously get the information internally, inside our own business. Our CRM databases or marketing intelligence systems will let us know how customers are buying, how much they're spending, any comments or remarks they make about product or services. So internal sources are a good and easy way to actually get information. External sources, things like surveys, You might actually conduct research, you might buy government reports, it might be trade journals, for example. Some of these external sources will be free, and others you will have to subscribe to pay. There's a wide variety of difference between the quality and the depth of data available. Secondary data, again, is very much from an internal or an external source, and we're going to explore the difference between secondary and primary data, as they are terms that you will hear about frequently through this module and as a marketer. So when it comes to collecting data, you can collect primary data or secondary data. Now there's a big difference between the two, so let's have a look at that difference. Sources of secondary and primary data. So there's a big difference between secondary and primary data. Secondary data is data that has already been commissioned by somebody else, and you can get this data from inside or outside your company. Secondary data sources can be sourced from inside your business, for example from CRM or from marketing intelligence systems, from your salespeople, from accounts data. And that secondary information will give you a lot of information about your competitors and about your existing customers. You might also get secondary data externally, and this is a great resource for marketers. Sometimes it's free, sometimes you have to pay. So your secondary data might come from white papers or discussion papers, from trade journals, from university sources, Australian Bureau of Statistics, for example. Okay, and it's a great way of getting data quickly and relatively easily. Primary research, however, is quite different. This is research that you have commissioned yourself to answer a specific question. And the question that you might be answering is, what are my customers looking for from my product or service? What improvements do we need to make from our products or services? What more can we do to achieve better levels of customer satisfaction, for example? And there's a number of ways that you can actually commission primary research. It might be through observation, and one of the most common ways is actually through surveys, through questionnaires. These can be conducted face-to-face, they might be conducted online. Another great way of getting primary information is through focus groups, where you invite a group of your stakeholders together to actually get their opinion about a particular topic on that day. You might also consider in-depth interviews, which are one-to-one, more detailed interviews of 30 minutes to an hour, where you're getting incredibly deep information. So there's secondary data. Remember, that's data that's already been commissioned. And primary data, data that you are commissioning yourself to answer a specific question. Remember the limitations of data. Never accept data at first value. Yes, you might be able to get data quickly, so the time that it takes to actually get data is a consideration. Ask yourself the question, is it accurate? Who is it written by? Is it biased? Who is the author? Is the data complete? Is it a full survey? Has it only been partially completed? How out of date is it? If it's 5 years out of date and you're wanting information about information technology, you might find that that data is just not suitable. Is it concise? You need the data to give you a full story, but you can't have it so shallow that it doesn't provide any insights, or too lengthy, too difficult to understand and actually get the nub of the situation. Is it understandable? Is it using complex jargon, overly complicated diagrams, making it difficult to comprehend? And I think the key thing to ask yourself about data, is it relevant? Does it actually matter? Is the answer to the question actually of great relevance to you and is going to help you solve the research problem? So our learning check for this week is, what is the difference between a customer and a user? Secondly, why is customer information important? Thirdly, what type of data can you gather? And finally, what are some of the limitations of data? Thank you.